welcome once again to our weekly REBT podcast or 3-minute therapy podcast. I'm Dr. Michael Edelstein. I'm a clinical psychologist. I do REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy. I've been doing it for 40 years. And before I detail what that involves, I'd like to introduce Kevin Benbow, who also is an REBT therapist and my partner in these podcasts, and Chris Rossini, who is our executive technology expert who helps us all the way through with the tech part. REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy, was devised by Dr. Albert Ellis in the 50s, a clinical psychologist and author of over 80 books. It was the first cognitive behavior therapy and spawned all the variants of the cognitive behavior therapies that came after. And it rests on the basic premise that most therapists seem to miss, that emotions don't come from situations. Getting fired doesn't make me depressed, but my thinking about it does. So it's our thinking, attitudes, views, opinions, beliefs, what we tell ourselves about situations is the cause of our emotions, not the situations themselves. And that's a very powerful idea, because if it's your thinking that changes your emotions, then you can change your thinking. If you find your emotions unhelpful, maladaptive, dysfunctional, or disturbing. So let's get started with our podcast for today, which discusses shaming. And so we start in an obvious place, that no one can make you feel ashamed. They can make attempts. They could call you fat, stupid, retarded, pejorative terms like that. But then how you feel about it is up to you. An example I give to a client of mine who easily upsets herself about what other people say is, if I called you a giraffe, would you then be a giraffe and check in at the local zoo? The answer obviously is no, because whatever I call you doesn't change you. It doesn't diminish you as a person. It's what you tell yourself about it. And calling you a giraffe is so obviously off, you normally wouldn't tell yourself, I'm a giraffe. It's the same with shaming. Kevin, you had some things to add about this.
Yeah, I certainly agree with what we're saying here, and I like that example. I'm going to use that. If I called you a giraffe or a gorilla or whatever, would that automatically mean you're going to be in the zoo? From the other side of it, the person who's doing the shaming, I don't know if I particularly like the way it's said, they could also benefit from some rational emotive behavior therapy, because sounds like they could learn some unconditional other acceptance rather than denigrating other people and downing them, because ultimately I believe that's personally destructive for them. So I can see both sides. Nobody can shame me, but I can certainly make myself feel ashamed about someone else's attempts to shame me.
Yes, Eleanor Roosevelt has famously said, no one can insult you without your acceptance. And actually goes further than that. It's not only your acceptance of being insulted, but it's you're telling yourself that not only is she right, but secondly, I am no good, I am an idiot, I am a failure, etc. So it's accepting it and then internalizing it that makes it real for you.
Mm-hmm.
So the solution is first identify your must or your should that causes your emotion, because it's our thinking that causes our emotion, and that would be some must, such as I must not act stupidly, or I must have your approval. And if I don't, I'm no good, I'm a loser. And then I feel ashamed or embarrassed, which is similar in some ways, but also different. Kevin, you were going to say something?
Yeah, I think that's right on. What happens is somebody says something, they call somebody fat, ugly, disgusting, creepy, whatever it is. Just faced this with somebody the other day, and we believe and agree with them. And I think that's lost on a lot of our clients, that they're agreeing and believing with the person by saying, well, I don't accept myself, it must be true. And then they go with it from there. And of course, people can have any opinion they want about us, but that doesn't necessarily make it so, and sure as hell doesn't mean I have to agree with it.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned someone calls you creepy, uh, which is another form of this. And that reminds me of someone told me the other day that someone gave them the creeps,
Mm,
and it's the same error there. No one could give you the creeps. They can't give you an emotion like feeling creeped out, but rather it's what you tell
mhm.
yourself about it. Now, you might not want to change what you tell yourself about it because there are certain aspects of this person that you don't like that you think are creepy, have those attributes, however you define that. But then, in order to feel creepy or creeped out, you're telling yourself, I must not feel this way. This is awful, terrible, or horrible that this person is slobbering all over himself or uh, hasn't tied his shoes or put on his shirt right or doesn't comb his hair or things like that. So again, look to your thinking and then question, challenge, and contradict your thinking if you have no evidence to support it. If you do have evidence to support it, then reinforce your thinking and go with it.
And there's that fine line between rating a person's essence and their behavior. Their behavior can certainly be creepy, but everybody's a human being. From the guy living in the street to the guy living in the White House, we're all simply human beings. Now we're all the same in that sense, but our behavior certainly changes. There are times when I do things very well. There are times I do things very poorly. Just ask my wife or any of my kids, they'll tell you. Uh, but it's about rating the person's behavior. So if someone's acting creepily, maybe I don't want to be with them or spend time with them. But again, that's just my opinion of their behavior.
Yeah, exactly. And you said something in there that maybe we can disagree about. And you said there's a fine line between rating someone's personhood and rating their behavior. And I see a world of difference there
Mm,
uh, between rating a behavior and rating a total person, because uh, rating a total person is an overgeneralization
mhm,
and it's a fiction. There
mhm,
are no bad people or stupid people. There are just people who act crazily or people who act stupidly. And to say, and there, and you don't see bad people walking around. You see people walking around doing things. You don't see people with halos or
mhm,
pitchforks and horns. You just see humans doing things. And then if you walk down the street and watch humans doing things, you can see some people doing good things, helping someone across the street. You can see people doing bad things, punching someone, and you could see people minding their own business. But it would be hard to point out a bad person if someone's walking, if you just see someone walking on the street. All you can identify is their acts. And
mhm.
so they're essentially human, they look human, and they're just imperfect humans. That's their essence, that's their personhood, and that's all they could ever be. So,
And
what do you think of my idea on that, Kevin?
yeah, I do think it is a wide. They're very different concepts. Rating someone's people are people and unrateable, basically. Their behaviors, of course, can certainly be judged. I guess what I was going for when I said a fine line is we as human beings, oftentimes, I know I tend to do it in myself, we make this cognitive error very easily. I perform, let's say I perform poorly in a session with a client. It's very easy for me to go to this place where I'm a lousy therapist, and I go to rating myself rather than I performed poorly and what can I do to improve myself. So I guess what I was going for is it's a very easy error to commit, and it's important for us to be vigilant against it.
Yes, very good. Thanks for
Mhm.
clarifying, Kevin. Uh, it's very human, or another way to put it, as you did, it's easy for us to jump and overgeneralize from
Mhm.
rating someone's acts and rating them as total people. And it's very common also. People are continually saying that person's idiot or that person's a moron or something like that.
Mhm.
So the bottom line is refuse to condemn others and call them names or think of them as bad people and make yourself angry, resentful, and hostile as a result, and refuse to condemn yourself.
Mhm.
Unconditional other acceptance, as Kevin said, and unconditional self acceptance. Go for that. And the bottom line with REBT, rational emotive behavior therapy, is acceptance, unconditional acceptance of oneself, others, and the situations you find yourself in.
Can I throw something out there with that? Some of my clients seem a little confused on this. By saying that we accept other people unconditionally, we're not necessarily saying that it's a good idea to go to lunch with them, that it's a good idea to hang out with them. We're accepting their personhood, that they're a human being just like we are. It doesn't mean we're going to be besties necessarily. There are people whose behavior, there are people in my circle, well, not so much in my circle because I try my best not to go near them, but their behavior I find obnoxious. And so I stay away from them best I can. But I try my best to accept them as a living, breathing human being like I
Yes, yes,
am.
exactly. That's a very good point. In fact, I've one of my best friends doesn't like the concept of acceptance because he thinks it means you lie down and be a doormat
Mhm.
and you like everything the person does. But your
Mhm.
clarification is excellent. You accept their being, their personhood, their human
Mhm.
essence, but not their behavior.
Right.
So it doesn't. And
Mhm.
if you're considering a divorce, the first step is to unconditionally accept your partner so you don't overemphasize their poor traits. You can make a more objective decision of the pros and cons and then decide.
Mhm. That's one where I work a big part of my caseload. I would say 20 to 30% at any given time are people who are going through a divorce. And if there was a group of people that could benefit from learning to accept their spouse or soon to be ex-spouse, it's those folks. They upset themselves routinely about child support, spousal support, how they were treated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, very good. I'm ready to wrap it up. Kevin, did you have
Mhm.
any last words there?
Nope, I'm good as well.
Okay. Well, thank you for watching. If you have any thoughts or comments, please comment below. If you have questions or pushback, please note your questions or disagreements below. If you'd like to be a guest on our program to discuss an issue or ask about an issue, if you're new to rational emotive behavior therapy and you have some questions or you'd like us to explain it to you, on our podcast, we would love to do that. And if you're a therapist and you have issues with clients that you'd like free supervision from two of the best REBT therapists around, Kevin, Benbow, and I, then let us know and we'll be happy to have you on sometime in the future. Although we are booked up until the middle of February, so it'll be some time, but uh, we will make every attempt to do it. Thanks for watching and continue to watch our podcasts and comment to stay on the rational side of life.